Okay. Good day. This is a continuation of our class. We are looking at cost management at this point. Now we have talked about we've talked about project initiation. We've talked about scope management. We've talked about time management, which is schedule, and that was in the last lesson. We also talked about Microsoft project in that lesson. Now we're looking at cost management. Okay. Now the plan cost management. In this lesson, we'll be looking at the plan cost management and estimate cost. So let's get along with it. So the plan cost management, this has to do with plan cost management. There are two processes we are looking at here: estimate cost and determine budget. Okay, and let's go further. What is a cost management plan? The cost management plan is a subsidiary plan of the project management plan that defines the process. It defines the process, procedure, tools, and technique to effectively manage the cost of a project. Okay, it documents the policies, procedures, and documentation for planning, managing, and expending and controlling the cost of a project throughout the life of the project. Now, having a good cost estimate at the beginning of the project is critical to the project success in delivering the project objective within the planned budget. Okay. Now, the plan cost management process documents the cost management plan, cost management strategy that will be used to effectively manage the project cost throughout the project lifecycle based on the scope definition of the project. The project management plan, if you have the project management plan, the project enterprise environmental factors and organizational process assets, tools and tech, we have the expert judgment and analytical technique meetings. Now the output at the end of the day, we have the cost management plan. Okay. Now various documents and factors provide input into the plan cost management process. We have the project management plan, project charter, enterprise environmental factors and organizational process assets. There are 3 tools and techniques used in the plan cost management process: expert judgment, analytical technique, and meetings. Now we have a guideline to develop a project, the cost management plan. Okay. Now to develop a cost management plan, guideline to develop a cost management plan as follows. Number 1, you must review the project management plan, review the project charter for summary budget information, review the enterprise environmental factors, review the organizational process assets, use tools and techniques, then use analytical technique for decision on how the project will be funded. Now hold meetings to develop the cost management plan and document the cost management plan for the project. And the next process we have is the estimate cost. Okay. Now the estimate cost is a process of projecting the total expenditure necessary for completion of your project. Logical estimates provide a basis for making sound decisions about projects, and they establish baselines against which the success of a project can be measured. Cost estimating also involves identifying considerable cost alternative. Okay. Now, input, we have a cost management plan, human resource management plan, scope baseline, project schedule, risk register, enterprise environmental factors, and organizational process assets. Tools and tech, we have the expert judgment, analogous estimate, parametric estimate, bottom-up estimate, 3-point estimate, reserve analysis, cost of quality, project management software, vendor bid analysis, group decision-making technique. Then the output at the end of the day will be activity cost estimate, basis of estimate, project document update. Now, like I will always say, lots of these things have already been discussed, so you may need to go through the previous videos to be able to capture them properly, while some of them will still be discussed here, and some, like the risk register, will be discussed in subsequent videos. Okay. Now the input, we talked about accurate cost estimates required in numerous input. We have the cost management plan, okay, which we actually got in the previous process. Now the human resource management plan, the scope baseline, which involves the scope statement, WBS and the WBS dictionary. Then we have this project schedule, which we've developed. Risk register, enterprise environmental factors, and organizational process assets. Now, the tools and tech, we have expert judgment and religious estimate, parametric estimate. We talked about this. The output at the end of the day. Okay, let me talk about the cost of quality, which we are also going to look later on. But when you talk about the cost of quality, we are talking about the cost of doing it right the first time. We are going to actually talk about it further in a later video. Okay, but we are talking about cost of doing it right the first time. Okay, now that may involve you training your people. It may need you to service your machineries. It may need you to go through inspection and over inspection again. It may need you to do some promotion that will not just promotion, but it may need you to do an after sales service for the client or give warranties and so on and so forth. Okay. Output, we talked about the activity cost estimate, which provides estimates on probable costs necessary to finish the project work. This includes cost of direct labor, material, equipment, facilities, services, information technology, contingency reserve, or indirect costs, if any. Now, basis of estimate, we have supporting or additional information needed to justify the cost estimate. Details can include project cost, project scope, justification for the estimate, range of estimate, the assumptions, constraints, confidence level on the estimate, and expected range of estimates. Okay, so with this we bring up what the basis, what are our reasons for stating those estimates. Okay, now project document updates. The document that may be updated include the risk register, human resource plan, activity list, project schedule, and the training plans. Okay. Guideline to estimate cost. Here are some guidelines. We have gather cost figures that go into cost estimate for individual work packages. Check with the resource supplier to make sure no incorrect assumptions have been made. Gather any relevant input information that may help you prepare the estimate. Determine which estimating technique to use. Look for alternative costing option. Determine the unit of measurement that will be used. Consider possible risks that may impact costs. Ensure that all cost estimates are assigned to the appropriate account. Make sure estimates include costs for resources, level of estimate, and a list of assumptions. Okay, so this is a scenario portion, and that is where this particular slide ends. Okay. Okay. Sorry, let me pause this. Okay. Conclusion. We have determined the project budget and plan quality management. Okay, let's see how we can tackle this. Determine budget. Okay, the cost baseline is time phase budget. Monitored and measured cost performance includes a budget contingency and vary from project to project. Now, determine budget. We take all the individual activity cost estimates and aggregate them to the entire project to produce a baseline for the cost for our project. The budget contains all the funding needed to implement to complete the project as scoped and within the schedule. The project cost performance is then measured against this baseline. Input, we have the cost management plan, scope baseline, activity cost estimate, or basis of estimates. We have project schedule, resource calendar, risk register, agreement, organizational process, assets. Okay, tools and tech, we have the cost aggregation, reserve analysis, expert judgment, historical relationship, funding limit, reconciliation. Then at the end of the day, we will be having outputs like cost baseline, project funding requirement, project document updates. Okay. Some of these things have already been stated, like the cost management plan. We've talked about scope baseline, activity cost estimate, basis of estimate is treated in our past listing. Then the project schedule we also dealt with it. Resource calendar has to do with timing of the people. Though we've talked about it earlier. Then risk register, we'll talk about it further. Then the agreement has to do with contracts and other things. Then organizational process assets we'll be having. Now, tools and tech, we have cost aggregation, where you add things together, you add the cost together. For, let's say, for an activity, you have several costs that are accrued to that activity, you aggregate them, bring them together, or you aggregate several activities to be able to bring up the cost of the summary activity. And when you add up the summary activities, you can come up with the cost of the project. Now we have the reserve analysis, where you have to put contingency reserve and management reserves for a project. The difference between the two of them is that contingency reserve has to do with the money that the project manager keeps around so that he will take care of known unknowns, things that we know, but we don't know the extent at which it will affect the project. Okay. But management reserve is actually kept to manage unknown unknowns, things that we did not anticipate for. Okay, we use it to actually handle them. Now, expert judgment, historical information, past projects, then funding limit reconciliation. We are looking at maybe we have a project that is worth that is going to cost us 5 million. Okay, but we don't have that 5 million presently. The organization only gave us 2 million. We'll start with that 2 million. So we look at activities that will take place in the near term and we handle them, while we also plan towards those that will happen later. So as fund comes into play, we start to handle more activities. Okay, now funding limit reconciliation was actually discussed here. It's a method of adjusting spending, scheduling, and resource allocation, bringing expenditure into alignment with budgetary constraints, regulating the outgoing capital flow, and protect against overspending. Our output, we have a cost baseline, project funding requirement, project document updates. Now, guideline to determine budget, okay, review the cost management plan, review the human resource management plan, review the scope management, the scope baseline for the project scope statement, WBS and a WBS dictionary, check the project schedule for type, quality, quantity, and duration of the resources, review the risk register to consider any risks that may impact cost estimation, review the enterprise environmental factors, and review the organizational process assets, use appropriate tools and techniques, document the project budget, creating a cost baseline, understand project funding requirements or cash flow to enable project budget, update project documents as needed. Okay, so this is a scenario quick a scenario and the question that will arise as a result. Now, we are done with the triple constraint, which includes the scope, the schedule, and the cost. And we were able to also deal with a Microsoft project. Now we are looking at project quality management. So let's kick off. What is quality? Quality should be quality, the total feature and characteristics of a product or service that bears on the ability to satisfy stated or implied needs. Now, I will also give an assignment here for the students and trainees. I need you to state for me the difference between quality and grade. When you state that, I'll be able to, this is what we are going to look at in our WhatsApp group, okay? When you state that, I will answer this particular question on the WhatsApp group. So it is the second assignment I'm giving on today. Okay, I've given one in the Microsoft project video. Now I'm giving one in the quality management video. Help me to understand better the difference between quality and grade. So quality should be feasible, modifiable, measurable. Okay, what is quality management plan? is another subsidiary plan of the project management plan. It documents and define how the organization's quality policies and procedures will be implemented for the project. It determines how the project quality requirements will be met and how the quality aspects of the project will be managed. Okay. Now, the plan quality management process involves developing a quality management plan to determine the quality requirement for the project process and its deliverables, and to plan how to achieve compliance of these requirements. Now, inputs, we have the project management plan, stakeholders register, risk registers, requirement documentation, enterprise environmental factors, and organizational process assets. Now, tools and tech, we have the cost benefit analysis, cost of quality, 7 basic quality tools, benchmarking, design of experiment, statistical sampling, additional quality planning tools, meetings. Now, output at the end of the day, we have the quality management plan, process improvement plan, quality metrics, quality checklist, project document updates. Okay, now, some of these things, have we talked about them? We've talked about the project management plan, the stakeholders register, yes. Please register, not yet, it will be treated in a later video. Requirement documentation, we have dealt with that. Enterprise environmental factors and organizational process assets has also been talked about. Now, tools and tech lab, cost benefit analysis, cost of quality, 7 basic quality tools. We've talked about cost of quality, talk about cost benefit analysis, 7 basic quality tools. We'll be dealing with that. Benchmarking, design of experiments. Let's go further. Okay, cost of quality. Yes, we said we will talk about it. Now, I told you that it is the cost to get it right, the cost that is required to give you the right quality. Now, there are 2 types. You have cost of conformance and cost of non-conformance. Cost of conformance, when you are meeting the quality, what it will take you to meet the quality. Now, cost of non-conformance is when you are not meeting the quality, what you will pay for not meeting the quality standard. Now, cost of conformance, we look at prevention costs. This includes that when you're talking about prevention costs, you're talking about build a quality product. What it will take you to build a quality product? That includes training of your personnel, documentation processes, equipment, time to get it right. You may need to do it and do it again and do it again, or take your time to do it right. Okay. Now we also have appraisal cost, which is assess the quality, what it will take you to assess the quality, like testing, destructive testing loss, and inspection. Like when we say destructive testing loss, like I've been to Nigerian breweries before, I've been to Coca-Cola before, I've been to 7-Up before. When they are doing destructive testing, those ones that are described as on level, that they didn't meet the quality standard, they destroy, they pour it away. Okay. We talked about cost of inspection. You have to go through to check what you're doing and all that. Apart from that, as it's, the machine is moving the drinks, you are inspecting them. Okay, what it will take to actually achieve that assessment of the quality. That's what we call appraisal cost. Now, for cost of non-conformance, we have internal failure and external failure. For internal failure, when we talk about internal failure, we're looking at failures found by the project. Okay, so what it will lead to is rework, and we can scrap it. Then the external failure cost, failure found by the customer. That includes liabilities, warranty, work, cost, loss of businesses. Okay, so for cost of conformance, they are money spent during the project to avoid failures. While for cost of non-conformance, there are money spent during and after the project because of failures. So this one is to avoid failures. This one is because of failures. Now, this is the 7 basic quality tools. We have the cost and effect diagram. The cost and effect diagram is also known as the Ishikawa diagram. The Ishikawa diagram. The Ishikawa diagram. It is also called the fishbone diagram. Okay. For instance, if I can zoom into this, let me see if I can do that. Oh, sorry. It's not giving me a room to do that. I think. Okay, but let me describe what we have here. Let's say somebody woke up very late. He's sweating, he's tired, he's having a headache, and everywhere is smelling. So we need to discover why that's happened. So all these arrows or diagram that you have there, these channels that you have there, are stating different reasons why this person woke up late. And everywhere is smelling. So that is what this is doing. It's giving us the causes of this effect. Okay. Now, flow chart has to do with processes, how things move from one stage to the other to achieve the expected result. Checklist is where you check out the activities that are supposed to have been done or your expectation for the day of a particular kind of work, or if there are frequencies that are found, we also state them. Then we have the Pareto diagram propounded by an Italian economist. Now, the Pareto diagram talks about the 2080 rule. The 2080 rule, it actually started as an economic policy that states that 20% of the population of a country controls 80% of the wealth of that nation, okay? While the remaining 80% of the population controls 20% of that country's wealth. Now, that happens for a developed country. In a developing country, it is different. That figure is different. Now, Nigeria is not a developing country yet. Nigeria is an underdeveloped country. So in a country like Nigeria, 95% of the nation's wealth is in the hands of 5% of the population, while 5% of the nation's wealth is in the hand of 95% of the population. Okay. Now, histogram is some bar chart that points, tells you, the concentration of things actually. Now we have the scattered, the control charts. The control charts is from the control chart that we got the 6 sigma principle. Now we have the upper control limit and the lower control limit, and this center is the average, okay, or what is expected. So at each point in the project, we are looking at what was achieved at each time space, okay? So there's an expectation which is at the mean, okay? But sometimes you don't hit at that mean, you hit below it or above it. Now, if it remains consistent in one area above the mean, if it remains consistent above the mean for 7 consecutive times, it is stated that that thing is out of control. Now, if it goes beyond the upper control limit, it's also stated to be out of control. Now, if it also stays below the mean for 7 consecutive times, we also state that it is out of control. And if it goes below the lower control limit, it's also out of control. Now, what are we talking about? For people that drink Coca-Cola like me, each of the Coke bottle that you bring up, you see that there is a place, a marker where the liquid inside the bottle gets to. Now, if you bring another one, you see that there's a bit of a difference between the two of them. They are not exactly on the same point, but there is a mean point. There's an actual point where it should be. Now, sometimes it goes below that point, sometimes it goes above it. Now, if it hits the cork, if it hits the top of the bottle, that one is said to be above the upper control limit, and it is out of control. Now, there's also a range where it gets to below, will also determine that it is out of control. Now, we have the scatter diagram, which also tells us about the concentration of items. Okay. DOE is known as design of experiment. It can determine which variable has the greatest effect, what's the relationship between each variable and customer focused quality specifications, okay? What's the best value for each variable, ensuring optimal quality or value, okay? Now, additional quality planning tools. There are some additional quality planning tools like brainstorming to generate ideas, force field analysis, with diagram the forces for and against change. Okay. Now, a nominal group technique where ideas brainstorm in small group are reviewed by a large group. Quality management or control tools used to link and sequence activities. Now, I want to talk a bit more about force field analysis. Now, force field is actually a term from the physics field. Okay, like when you place a magnet in a particular location and bring a metallic object around it. Now, there is a range in which the metallic object will be the magnet will pull them to itself. Now, there's also a range it will get to, the magnets will not be able to actually pull them. Now, but the force field analysis looks at what is for or against a particular change. Okay, now let me go further. Now, output, we have quality management plan, process improvement plan, quality metrics, quality checklist, project document updates. Okay, process improvement plan is a subsidiary plan of the project management plan. It documents the step to take a look at the project management process and the production development process in order to identify ways to enhance their value to the project and the organization. Okay, so how do you improve the project and how do you improve the organization? That's what the process improvement plan talks about. Okay, now quality metrics and checklists. Quality metrics and checklists describe the project attribute and how it will be measured, used to confirm that a set of steps has been performed. Guidelines to develop the plan quality management. You review the organization's quality policies and determine how your project team will implement the policies. Review the product description to identify customer, stakeholders, quality requirements. Determine the cost of quality trade-off. Use tools and tech such as cost-benefit analysis, cost of quality, 7 basic quality tools, benchmarking, design of experiments, statistical sampling, additional quality planning tools, and meetings to develop the quality management plan, document the quality management plan, process improvement plan, quality metrics, quality checklist, and update any product document as needed. Review the quality management plan to make sure it meets all the project quality requirements. Now, this is a scenario question, and that's the end of this particular slide. Okay.